All right, so we're going deep on sustainable packaging today.
Okay.
And you've got this a
Yeah.
ton of research on this
Mm.
company, Myco,
Uh-huh.
out of the Czech Republic.
Right.
I can see why this is so interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, using mushrooms to
Yeah.
create packaging.
Right.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and it's not
Yeah.
just, another eco-friendly alternative.
Yeah.
They're actually tackling the big problems that have always been there
Yeah.
with sustainable packaging,
Yeah.
like being too fragile, impractical to
Yeah.
use, expensive.
Yeah, those things.
All the bioplastics that just kind of crumble under pressure.
Like if you're shipping something,
Right.
you want it to arrive intact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case
Yeah.
with some of these other sustainable options.
So really the drawbacks are,
Yeah.
that low mechanical resistance.
Right.
The designs are bulky. The costs are
Right.
high. It's just, there are a lot of barriers to entry, it seems,
Yeah.
with sustainable packaging. But Myco seems to be addressing these with their
Right.
Myco 4-pack system.
Yeah, they're going right at it.
Okay, so this Myco 4-pack is this modular system that
Yeah.
uses paper capsules filled with this Myco material and
Uh-huh.
cardboard.
Okay.
So it's kind of like
Oh, okay.
building blocks like Legos,
Oh, wow.
but for sustainable packaging.
That's pretty cool.
And the really interesting part is
Yeah.
that this Myco material is actually made from the
Okay.
root-like structure of mushrooms.
Okay, so they're taking these mushrooms and turning it into
Pretty much.
a packaging material.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's called mycelium.
Mycelium. Okay.
Yeah, and it's made up of these...
So I'm picturing like a tangled web
Yeah, you got it.
of like tiny threads.
That's exactly it. So
Yep.
these branching thread-like structures
Uh-huh.
called hyphae.
Okay. And so what Myco does is they cultivate the mycelium
Okay.
of reishi mushrooms,
Interesting.
and they use it to bind these waste materials like
Yeah.
sawdust together.
Right.
So you get this biocomposite that's surprisingly strong and durable.
So it's durable like
yeah.
plastic.
Well, it actually has what they call plastic deformation properties.
Okay.
So it's got that
Yeah.
flexibility and that you would find in conventional plastics.
So it bends without breaking.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So it can bend like plastic,
Uh-huh.
but it's biodegradable.
Right.
I mean, is that really...
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
I mean, is it really much more efficient than
Well,
what other companies are already doing with mycelium?
that's a good question, and
Yeah.
that's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Myco claims to have a much more streamlined process than its competitors.
Okay.
So they've actually developed a continuous manufacturing process
Okay.
for their input materials,
Uh-huh.
which is way more efficient than
Okay.
like the traditional batch processes because
Uh-huh.
it just keeps things moving.
Right, keeps things flowing.
And their molding process is super fast too.
Okay.
It takes seconds compared to like days for other
Wow.
mycelium-based materials.
Right, okay.
So that's a huge advantage.
So they're using a rapidly renewable resource,
Yeah.
cutting down on waste
Uh-huh.
by using byproducts like sawdust,
Right.
and they're making this material that's both durable and biodegradable.
Yeah, they're checking a lot of boxes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and they even have certifications for biodegradability, low toxicity, and safe content.
Wow. So it really seems like they're walking the walk
They are.
when it comes to environmental responsibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not just saying it.
Yeah.
They're backing it up
Yeah.
with third-party verification.
Okay.
And they're even going a step further by sourcing their waste materials locally.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Minimizing their carbon footprint
Right.
and supporting their local economy.
Wow, that's
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
a very impressive commitment to transparency.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It really is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Myco is serious about sustainability.
Yeah.
But why isn't everyone using Myco 4-pack?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with all these benefits,
You'd think so, right?
what are the hurdles?
Well, it seems like a no-brainer,
Yeah.
but there are always challenges when you're
Yeah.
trying to change a huge industry like packaging.
So what kind of roadblocks is Myco facing? Is it just about getting the word out there?
Awareness is definitely part of it.
Correct.
Myco's still a pretty small company and a
Yes.
global market.
Right.
And that market is dominated by
Yeah.
some big players.
Right.
So they really need to educate potential clients
Yeah.
about the benefits of this mycelium packaging
Right.
and showcase the companies that are already using it successfully.
Yeah, Kalme is a great example.
Yeah.
They make specialized electronics.
Right.
And they've had a really positive experience with Myco 4-pack.
I mean, they were able to reduce packaging volume by 75%
That's right.
and completely eliminate plastic,
And all while keeping costs down.
and all while keeping costs down.
It's a big deal.
I mean, that's huge.
Especially when you think about all the logistics
Right.
and the environmental impact.
Yeah, all that bulky plastic packaging.
Right.
It's a nightmare.
It's a lot of wasted space
Yeah.
and warehouses and
Everything's got a huge carbon footprint
Exactly.
just from transporting it.
So reducing that volume
Yeah.
is good for the environment
Right.
and good for business.
Makes sense.
So Kamei is a really good example of how this can work.
Right.
But spreading the word is just one part of it. There are also some inherent challenges
Right.
when you're trying to scale up
Okay.
any kind of bio-based solution.
Like what?
Well, we're so reliant on plastic
Yeah.
that switching to bio-based materials
Right.
requires a pretty big system overhaul.
Okay.
So you're talking about investing in new production facilities, rethinking supply chains,
Yeah.
and even educating consumers about how to properly dispose of these products.
Right.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it's not like we could just flip a switch and replace all the plastic
It
overnight.
does take time.
So what about cost?
Yeah.
I mean, Myco claims to be cost effective,
Uh-huh.
but is that really sustainable
That's a good point.
as they scale up?
It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
They're using waste materials
Yeah.
and they know efficient processes,
Mhm.
but there's still the cost of research and development and
Right.
building the infrastructure they need
Right.
to really compete on a global scale.
So there are economic hurdles
Yeah.
as well as logistical ones.
That's right.
Are there any other barriers?
Well, I think there are some deeper,
Okay.
maybe even psychological barriers.
Interesting.
Partly so used to plastic,
Right.
it's cheap, it's durable, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So is it realistic to expect people to suddenly embrace something as unconventional as mushroom packaging?
That's a good question.
It goes beyond just the economics and logistics.
Aye.
It's about our cultural perceptions.
Yeah.
Some people just have an ick factor when
Yeah.
it comes to fungi. So Myco has to overcome that perception and
Yeah.
highlight the beauty and the strength
Right.
and the incredible versatility of mycelium.
It's about changing the narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about reframing how we think about
It's
it.
like Myco is challenging us
Yeah.
to rethink our whole relationship with nature.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Instead of seeing ourselves as separate from the natural world
Right.
or even superior to it,
Uh-huh.
they're saying, hey, there's incredible potential right here.
Right beneath our feet.
Yeah. Let's work with nature,
Exactly.
not against it.
It's a really powerful message.
Yeah. And their success stories prove that
Yeah.
it's not just about good intention.
It's about results.
It's about creating practical,
Right.
cost-effective solutions
Solutions that actually work
that actually work in the real world.
in the real world, yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about Myco's approach,
Yeah.
their product,
Uh-huh.
the challenges they face,
Right.
and this whole idea of shifting to bio-based solutions.
It's a big shift.
Now I want to dig a little deeper
Okay.
into the science behind all of this.
All right.
You mentioned earlier that this mycelium material
Yeah.
has plastic deformation properties.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
Well, it all comes down to the structure and composition of mycelium.
Okay.
Remember those thread-like hyphae
Yeah,
we talked
those
about?
little threads.
So as the mycelium grows,
Okay.
those hyphae branches
Uh-huh.
out and intertwine,
right.
and they form this dense,
Okay.
interconnected network.
Okay.
And inside those hyphae,
Uh-huh.
there's a key component
Okay.
called chitin.
Chitin.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
It's the same stuff that makes up the exoskeletons of
and insects and crustaceans.
like crab shells and stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
So chitin is a really strong
Uh-huh.
and resilient biopolymer.
Okay.
It's what gives those creatures
Right.
their protective armor.
Okay.
And in mycelium,
Uh-huh.
it's what gives it that structural integrity and flexibility.
Can mimic the properties of plastic.
That's right.
Wow. So they're basically using
Yeah,
nature's own building blocks.
pretty much.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really remarkable.
What about biodegradability?
Okay.
You said their products are fully compostable.
Yeah, they are.
But how long does that take?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
It depends on a few things.
Okay.
Like temperature,
Uh-huh.
moisture,
Okay.
and the presence of microorganisms.
Okay. But in ideal composting conditions,
Okay.
their packaging could break down in a matter of months.
So it doesn't just disappear overnight.
No, it takes a little time.
Okay.
But it's still a lot faster
Right.
than traditional plastic.
Yeah, hundreds of years for plastic
Exactly.
versus a few months for this.
That's right.
Okay.
And the best part is
Yeah.
it breaks down into organic matter.
Okay.
So it enriches the soil
Right.
instead of leaving behind microplastics.
Yeah.
It's a true closed-loop system.
So they're using a rapidly renewable resource.
Yeah.
They're making a durable and versatile material.
Mm-hmm.
And are making sure it returns to the earth safely.
It's a pretty good system.
It's a really compelling case for the
Yeah.
potential of mycelium.
It really is.
Okay, so we've explored the science behind Myco's material.
Yeah,
And it's got some really impressive properties.
it does.
But I want to talk about the team behind all this.
Okay.
You mentioned that Myco's CEO,
Mm-hmm.
David Chouhamanishi,
Right.
started experimenting with mycelium in his
Yeah,
bathroom
he
back in
did.
2019.
Back in 2019.
That's a pretty unusual origin story.
It is a pretty unusual start
Yeah.
for a company like this.
It makes you wonder what got him started. I
Right.
mean, what made him think,
Yeah.
hey, maybe I can grow something amazing in my bathroom?
I know, it's a pretty unique mindset.
Yeah.
But, it takes a certain kind of innovator
Yeah.
to see potential in something like that.
Right, instead of just seeing mold and mildew.
Exactly. He saw something more.
So he had this vision,
Yeah.
and then he teamed up with Jan Strezzi.
Right. Myco CTO.
Okay.
And he brought all this expertise
Okay.
in materials engineering and automation
Uh-huh.
from the automotive industry.
So you've got this blend of artistic vision
Yeah.
with technical know-how,
The classic combination.
the recipe for innovation,
Exactly.
and then to round out the team,
Yeah.
they brought in Martin Janchik.
As their CSO.
Okay, and his background is in,
Chemical engineering
okay,
and building materials research.
which seems pretty important for
Right.
developing their processes.
Essential. He was really key in refining their techniques.
So each founder brought something unique,
Definitely.
but they all had this shared passion
Yeah.
for sustainability
That was the common thread.
and this belief in the power of mycelium
Yeah, they all saw the potential.
to create
thinking-
positive change.
To make a real difference.
It really shows the power of collaboration,
It does.
bringing together all these different perspectives
Yeah, different backgrounds, different expertise.
to solve complex problems.
Exactly. And it's not just about the founders.
Right.
The whole Myco team is full of people who are passionate about
Okay.
this mission.
So we talked about their technology,
Uh-huh.
their commitment to sustainability,
Yeah.
the challenges they face,
Right.
the team behind it all.
It's a pretty amazing story.
But what about the big picture?
Okay.
I mean, how does this all connect to the fight against climate change?
That's the ultimate question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all want solutions to
Yeah.
this global problem.
And plastic pollution is a huge part of it.
It's a massive contributor to greenhouse gas emissions.
It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, it can.
But companies like Myco,
Yeah.
they offer some hope.
They do.
They're not just offering a different material.
Right.
They're offering a different way of thinking
It's a different approach.
about design
Right.
and manufacturing.
It's more circular, more
It's agile.
regenerative. They're not just trying to replace plastic. They're trying to rethink the whole system.
Okay, so their emphasis on using waste materials,
Uh-huh.
sourcing locally,
Right.
and creating biodegradable products,
Yeah,
that all aligns with the idea of a circular economy,
absolutely.
where resources are kept in use for as long as possible.
And waste is minimized.
So if this approach could be scaled up
Yeah.
and adopted by other industries,
Imagine the impact.
the potential is huge.
It could completely change how we make and consume things.
It's like a total paradigm shift.
It is.
Moving away from that linear model.
Make, dispose.
Take, make, dispose.
That's the old way.
Right. And embracing a more cyclical,
Yeah.
harmonious relationship
Working with nature.
with nature.
Instead against it.
Myco's story shows us
Yeah,
that innovation can come from anywhere.
it really does.
Sometimes the solutions to our biggest problems
Yeah,
are right under our feet.
right there in the natural world.
I mean, who knew mushrooms could help us
It's amazing, isn't it?
build a more sustainable future?
It's a testament to the power of observation,
Yeah?
curiosity, and
Yeah.
challenging the status quo.
Well, this has been a fascinating look
It has
at the world of Myco.
a lot to think about.
They've given us a lot to think about.
They have.
And a huge thank you to you,
Yeah.
our listener, for bringing this company to our attention.
Yeah.
If you're as intrigued by Myco as we are,
I encourage you to check out their website.
yeah, their website is www.myco.cz.
It's got tons of information
You got everything you need to know.
about their products, their process, their vision.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe their story will inspire you
Yeah.
on your own journey
To a greener future.
to a greener future. Until next time, stay curious.